Hey guys, I just realized in my past recordings, I'm pretty sure I wore a red shirt every single time. I swear, I know it's quarantine. I've been keeping it clean. I'm wearing new clothes. I'm just pointing that out so you guys don't think I'm some messy freak. Alright, so anyways, today's lesson, it actually involves a lot of vocabulary. It's gonna be about there's two different groups of data types, and there's methods and objects. If you're in Buffet, I wouldn't worry too much about these vocabulary because I hope you guys would understand them and know how they're used, but you're never gonna go very deep into them. However, if you're in AP, I'm going to be using this vocabulary all the time because the AP test also doesn't hesitate to use it. So in the future, I'm just going to be saying them and hoping you guys understand. All right, so let's get started. All right, so there's a lot of stuff that you guys can sort of ignore for that you guys have learned these past few lessons because we're going to try doing something a little fun today. We're going to be doing graphics. And this is something Dr. Neat introduces really early on, to kind of like pull you guys into what coding can do and like the power of coding, sort of, right? Because numbers and strings and math, this stuff can be boring, but graphics are fun. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the T21 folder, and there should be a graphics-based code that Dr. Neat provided for you guys, right? So I'm gonna copy this, Control C, and put it onto my desktop for demonstration. All right. And inside this graphics-based code folder, there's a package. I don't want you guys to look in here. It's a lot of complicated stuff that you guys will never have to know about. So just leave that in there. That's just a new thing, right? So I'm gonna go to starter. Oh, by the way, this could be named different things. It doesn't really matter. Just know that the .java file is the one you need to be editing. Edit with Notepad++. All right. So in here, there's a bunch of new things that you've never seen before. He tells you that you don't need to change these, all this stuff. You can ignore this for now. You're not going to be using any of this. Just treat it as if these don't exist. All right. Before I start programming, I need to go over some terms. So far, what we've been learning, these data types like strings and integers and stuff like that, they're called primitive data types. And primitive data types are the most basic form of data types in Java, and they serve as a foundation for Java. However, half of them, there's only 8, I think, and half of them are useless for the AP course. And to be honest, even outside the AP course, I still only use the same half. Occasionally I use the other ones, but you're never going to need them, to be honest. And today we're going to learn our new primitive data type. So we've learned a string, we've learned an int, and I think I've talked about this once earlier. It's called a double. I'm not going to go a lot into it because a double is just a decimal. You guys know an integer is a whole number, so int is just a whole number. A double is just a decimal. That's the only difference, right? And past that, we're going to learn another new data type. So Java is what's known as an OOP language, and that means object-oriented programming language. And that's because in Java, we're allowed to make objects. And this is a really core part about Java, and it's the first non-primitive data type that we're going to learn today. I wouldn't stress too hard about what an object is just yet. You guys are going to be creating your own object. You guys are going to be creating your own objects in the future, but for right now, we're just going to be using the rectangle object. So this object uses the same formula of actually, let me show you guys in Paint.net because there's an important concept that I want to get across. Right? I don't know how to use this well. Ignore my handwriting because I can't really draw with a mouse. But how do I use this? All right, so there's text here. Let's make this bigger. All right, I can say int, like my int equals 1. All right, and inside here, I'm just gonna go over what I showed you guys before. I can have like, oh God. Okay. All right, and under these, I told you guys this was a. Let's make this smaller. Like 24, I guess. This would be your data type. This would be your variable name, and this is your value. All right, objects follow this same thing or similar pattern, but there's one more thing we need to learn, and that there's this whole section and this whole section. All right, I'm just breaking it down for you guys. This is called your declaration, if I spell, and this is your initialization. And that didn't work. Anyway, you guys get the point. Initialization. Too bad. All right. This is the part that changes a lot with objects, and this is kind of like that. This is just like the picture. Actually, can I make this bigger? I don't know how. Oh well. This is like the big picture, so I want you guys to remember this, and this is kind of how all things are declared and initialized in Java. Right, so where do I start? So constructors in Java are a special method that initialize objects. As you guys saw before with the value, the right side of the equal sign, that was your initialization process. In Java, there are things called constructors, okay? And we are able to make objects, right? Initialize objects through these constructors. We give objects attributes or parameters as well. So I'm gonna write the first one. Actually, I'll just write like a skeleton of it um, in comments. So rectangle var name equals new rectangle. Just hold on for now. I'll explain everything. Double X, double Y, double W, and double H. Right? Should zoom in a bit, right? Okay, I think that's as big as I can get it. I know this looks kind of scary at first, but just bear with me. The left side looks pretty similar to what we've been doing. This is the data type, and this is the variable name. The only difference is that objects have their own names as well. So this wouldn't be the rectangle data type. This is the object data type. And the only way to really figure out if it's an object data type or not that's just named is you know the other ones. You know what a double is, you know what a string is, you know what an int is. So if it's not one of those three primitive data types, it's going to look like this. It's going to have a name. And these are all called objects, all right? And so I'm going to make my first object, right? So rectangle following the same thing, and let's name it my rect for rectangle equals new rectangle. I'll go over what this means in a bit. Let's do 10, 20. Actually, just for demonstration, 10.0, 20.0, guess I have to be big enough, 300.0, and 400.0. Alright, so for this right side, remember I told you in the past that quotes in Java are kind of like your gateway to making a string. In a similar fashion, using the word new is like your gateway to making an object in Java. Ignore that. The word new is your gateway to constructing an object in Java. Seeing the word new always calls a constructor, okay? Just keep that in mind. So when I'm constructing or initializing an object, I use the word new and say what I'm making. For now, especially in Buffet, these will always be the same. Whatever you're constructing and whatever you're declaring are always identical for now. All right. And inside is what I was talking about parameters earlier, how we give attributes to our objects. And because earlier I showed you guys double X, double Y, double W, double H, these are all these are all doubles. That's why I put a 0.0 just to emphasize the fact that these are decimals. I can, put other decimals in here. And these are just names that, like helpful names that kind of show you what parts of the rectangle this is. So X would be the X coordinate of the rectangle, of where the rectangle would start, which I'll show you guys in a bit. 20 would be the Y coordinate of the rectangle of where it starts. And the W and H are the width and height of the rectangle. And I can show you guys through Dr. Neat's PDF. Actually, I'll just go there for you guys. So in the T21 folder, you want to go to the make a rectangle, then notes, and then constructors, right? You guys can review this. This is Dr. Neat's take on it. And so this is kind of what's happening here. This looks kind of scary, but not really. this is the normal Cartesian plane, what we use in math, with the origin being like, I guess in the middle, it's the middle for both, but the bottom left, right, in the positive first quadrant. But when he says think of the origin in the upper left-hand corner of your window, he's talking about this. All right, you can ignore these other three things for now. And same thing here. We're just talking about the positive xy. When in math, when we say x equals, 10 and then y equals 5, you're going over 10 and then up 5. In this graphic system, just it's how it's made. When we're giving a rectangle a coordinate, we're saying, go over 10 and then positive like 5. I'm saying positive because I want to say, like up 5, but it's not really up. It's more like down, right? So just know your positive numbers are right and down rather than right and up, all right? All right, and on the next slide, he gives you an example. So in the rectangle SAM, he has on coordinate of x equals 1, so he goes to x equals 1, coordinate of y equals 2, so it's this point. This is the top left corner of your rectangle, all right? 3 would be your width, and 4 would be your height. These are how all the rectangles are made, and yeah, so just try to get used to it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my code, and here, I made my first rectangle. So I'm going to save. The reason why I made these numbers bigger, is so that the rectangle's bigger. You'll see why in a bit. Right, so I'm going to save and I'm going to run it, right? So we should be able to see this rectangle. I'm going to go to the graphics base code, same thing, even though it's a new base code folder. You go to C, run, and you go to R and run. What's going to happen is you're going to get a little window. But your question is, where's my rectangle? I made my rectangle, I don't see it. Well, that's because we didn't output the window. We went over outputs earlier, like in the first episode, I think. And how did we output? We outputted through system.out.print, right? That's how we print it to the console. This is like making a string and saying, name equals, string equals Tony, and expecting the console just to spit out Tony for no reason. So we'd have to system.out.print name in order to print out Tony to the console. So how do you print the rectangle onto the console? I know I went over a lot in this video, so I'm not going to go deep into how methods work exactly, but I'm going to go over one method today, and it's going to be the draw method, okay? So you type myrect.draw with 2 parentheses. And these parentheses mean that you're calling a method. And I think I've said this before, I'm not sure, so I'll say it again. These work in a noun-verb fashion. Usually. Okay? So because a rectangle is a noun, and I want to do an action, which is draw. So draw would be my method, and myrect would be, the object that's being manipulated, okay? And what this is going to do, this is basically your identical thing to system.out.print, okay? And this is the method that draws it. So all you have to do is come back here, go to C, compile and run, and boom, you'll see your rectangle, right? And you guys will see that if I change the parameters in here, so let's say I change this to 50, and I change this to 100, it should be farther to the right and a little skinnier, I think, right? See, now the rectangle moved the right to the little bit and became a lot skinnier. These are just attributes to what the rectangle looks like, all right? These are just attributes to what the rectangle looks like. So you can play around with these. You can make more rectangles. I can show you guys right now. So I can say rectangle. Like other rectangle equals new rectangle. Now I gotta give it its 4 parameters. Let's say like 100 and 150 and let's say like 300. And you don't have to put the .0. I'm just showing you guys because I just want to point out the fact that these are doubles, right? So even though you put 300, it's going to read it as a decimal, right? And then like 150, why not? Or like 0.1, okay? What's gonna happen? I haven't been using the actual decimals because you can't really tell, but they're there. You're gonna see two rectangles. Wait, just kidding, I'm dumb. I didn't draw the other rectangle. Let's do that right now. Other rect dot draw. Right? Save, compile and run. Boom. Now you have two rectangles. Alright, so let's get to the lab. Alright, so here's the lab. Oh, is this it? Oh, it's just make a rectangle. You guys just saw me make rectangles. This lab should be a piece of cake. You could try getting creative with this. Last year, Dr. Neat had like this project where people made tanks or whatnot, or a little game, and so people would just basically put rectangles with like different attributes. Right now, you guys can only make like boring box rectangles that are hollow. They're kind of lame, but you play around with it, get used to it, and yeah, be creative. Good luck on your lab, guys.